I'm Jim Cosson, and live from the Gallup Studios here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Call to Coach, recorded on January 17th, 2020. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you're listening live, love to have you join us in our chat room right above. There's a link to it on our live page in the YouTube instance. And we'd love to have you join us in the chat room. Many of you have. And we'd also, if you have questions after the fact, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, YouTube, all those places. Get it done. Subscribe to us. We want to thank you for doing that as well. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She works as a learning and development consultant here at Gallup with me. Jacqueline, it's great to have you, and welcome back to Call to Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. We spent some time in the prior session, in session 3, kind of really talking about building a better team. So we talked about recognition and conflict in that, which seem opposite, but are actually, I think, maybe not opposites in that.
Yes, that it brings people together.
It does. And so part 4 is, I think, a natural conclusion to the series as we talk about some very practical kind of activities and some things. We'll continue a little bit in the flavor of what we were talking about in session 3, but maybe even with some more details as we think about activities and exercises that help teams get better. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, so to speak, to say not just about how to do the activities, but why are we doing, right?
Yes.
What we're doing in this. So I think the natural place to start with this is a team grid. And everybody,
people love that.
People love those things. So beyond putting it together, like however that gets done, you get to a point where you get a team grid. The grid itself as an activity, what have you seen work well, and where can we start with once we have everybody's top 5, all 34, whatever, put together in a team grid?
Well, after the manager has reviewed the team grid as well, so we're all on the same page moving into that team session. I think it's a beautiful thing when you've got the grid posted, it's on a PowerPoint, or it's enlarged, or you just hand it out piece by piece to individuals. I think the power comes when they can look at the grid and start thinking about, are we relationship builders? Are we executors? Are we strategic thinkers? Are we influencers? And then having individuals look at the grid and start to say, what are our top 5 that we start to see, which starts getting them thinking about the culture. And that might be a question I pose too, if they're just simply looking at the top 5 to say, oh, we have a lot of positivity here. We're high individualization. Let's talk about that a little bit more. How does that, whenever you think about the culture of the team, how do you see that play into it? And then alternatively, I like to throw questions at them and have them think about, what are we doing really well as a team? So they're starting to see the value that they're bringing to themselves, but then expanding that on the macro level, what's the value we're bringing to those other teams that we cross-collaborate with frequently? Or maybe we feel pretty siloed and we want to actually be a little bit more influential in the workplace. What's the value we bring, and how can we then propose that and pitch that to other teams, or start connecting with other teams? And then going to that flip side to say, okay, let's talk about some challenges you've had over this past year or the past quarter. Is this shedding light on that for you all? And let's talk about that and bringing forth that feedback. And how do we account for that? If there have been some challenges based on what you're seeing in your grid, how do we account for that individually? How are you going to contribute towards that? But then as a team, how are we going to rectify that without hiring new people? Because that's what people want to go to first, right? We have no influencing. We've got to hire influencers. And that's simply not the case. What we might say is, what can you use instead? Or what's another team that you actively cross-collaborate with, and maybe they're that partner for your team.
Boy,
so I think that's the value of the team grids.
That's a great point you just made, is sometimes we create these, and I haven't heard a lot of teams doing this, but we create these team grids. So whatever your team size is, so we'll say 10 or 15.
Yeah.
And then you isolate yourself in the organization, and you don't say, oh, wait a minute, who do we work with the closest, and
Mm-hmm.
how are they made up? Like, and have cross team
Yes.
collaboration, right? Have you seen that work inside organizations where the
Yes.
teams are doing that? And what's some best practices, or what have you seen work really well in that area?
I've seen some where they're a group of strategic thinkers, and then they're working with a team that has some high influencing. So for them, it's been a fantastic partnership because they're coming up with all these valuable ideas and resources and systems that might be able to put in place, and then you've got their other team that's influencing people to get behind them and create action around it. Um, and then for some teams, I think they recognize why there might even be conflict between them at times. So going right back to that healthy conflict and what that might look like, or bringing it forth, no wonder. We're a team of executors. They're a team of thinkers. We could actually work really well together, but no wonder at times we get frustrated because they might be internally processing and we feel like they're sitting on things more. And we just want to go and get things done. But actually looking at their team dynamics, they're seeing that they can actually be quite effective. And oh, we need your thoughts and your thinking process, and we're just those individuals that can carry it out. So we've got the cart and the horse, as they say,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to put a pitch in for season 6 of Theme Thursday. Micah and
Mm.
I are talking a bunch in context of, and I think an enormous amount of resources this season for this team grid conversation. In other words,
Yes.
and let me ask you, because this happens all the time. Teams get a hold of the grid and they're missing something, or they're
Yes.
all something, right? And we tend to, why with individual themes do we tend to, we always tell people, hey, focus on what you're best at, but
Hmm.
teams want to go right to the bottom. How have you seen, or what kind of
They
advice
do.
would you give to teams to keep them from immediately going to the bottom and saying we need, instead
Yes.
of we are awesome at? What kind of advice would you give there?
Yeah, and that's the power of having that conversation with the manager ahead of time to start hypothesizing what the team might say and collaborating together. Or if you're the facilitator or the coach that's going into that team session, to be able to say, it's not about what you don't have. What might you be using instead? So you don't see that you've got individualization. No one has that. Your high relator. How are you building those relationships using relator? How do you start to connect with individuals and see what's unique within them? Um, and that might be something. Obviously, I'd want them to call that out themselves, but that's what you want to bring them back to. Is just because you don't have that theme doesn't mean that you're not figuring out a different method of getting to that same outcome. Let's talk about what you do have. And that did actually come up with a team before where they had no context, but they were high learner and input. And that's a question I presented to them was, how do you think you might be receiving information when you need to learn more about the past? And their eyes went right to learner and input to say, well, that's what we do. We go down
Mhm.
we go down the Google rabbit hole, and we start learning about what we need to know in order to
Yeah.
inform us.
Might be the best use of the domains that I've seen yet is when we're looking at a specific theme and it doesn't
Hmm.
exist. How do we look at the other 7 themes in
Yes.
that domain and then ask that question? Okay, we don't have this. How, we may be short on executing, but we got a ton of belief.
Yes.
How are we gonna use that fits into that domain? Or I think even sometimes Mike is famous for saying this, in the fact that she sees domains as more of a curtain than a wall,
Yes.
right? And so how can we start having these conversations of how can I turn my woo, or how can I turn my input on to act like those things? I think that gives us some
Yes.
great solutions, right? It doesn't have to be exactly nailed down to the theme, right? But it's that discussion
Hmm.
around how can I fill in, right?
It is. And even going back to domains, it's a great point you bring up because not only are we looking at gaps in themes, is that something that teams often do when they look at the team grid, but they'll look at the domain and say, oh, we're missing influencing.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. But maybe they're high relationship builders. And so might you be influencing people because they simply like you? They know that you're genuine, you're authentic, that you're true to your word and your bond, and that relationship they have with you is meaningful, and they want to make sure that um, they're doing what's best for you and for the team. And so maybe that's how you're influencing people. So sometimes as a coach, a facilitator, a manager, we have to also help them see some other sides of how they might be, um, accounting for a a domain that seems to have quite a wide gap in it with something else that they're using.
We've talked in this team grid concept. People make posters out of them, they post them, but
Mm-hmm.
there are other ways to do grid-like activities without having a team grid. And I think
Yes.
about our name tags being posted here
Yes.
publicly where everyone can see them. Like that's a
Yeah.
function of a team grid
Mm-hmm.
without it necessarily being a team grid, right?
Yes. I encourage that all the time. That people, one of the easiest ways and quickest ways you can implement CliftonStrengths from a team level is to start putting it in the signature of your email, or to have your table placard that's got your name on it with your top 5 on there, or have it posted on your office window so people can see it. But it starts to create that conversation. And I think when it creates a conversation and you're starting to talk about your themes as a colleague, now you can look at that person and say, oh, you're actually a pretty good potential partner. I'm struggling with something at the moment, and I see you have ideation high. And now that I see that, I actually want to, I'm going to switch topics here, and I want to pick your brain about something for a moment. So I think it can be so effective and so easy. To your point, it's a simple way of starting to talk themes.
And I think even having conversations, I do this maybe twice a day now, where I'm
Hmm.
talking with someone, and in the middle of the conversation, I'll say, "Hey, wait a minute. Tell me your top 5." Like, just because I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand where that's coming from. I have a benefit that, here at Gallup, like, it's hard not to know your top 5, right? We've all pretty much got
Yeah.
them memorized, and we spend a lot of time talking about them. But it is one of those, I think one of those little, tricks is to be asking from time to time. Just tell me,
Hmm.
like, remind me, even if they need to look.
Hmm.
I've had new employees go out and look at their name tag just because they wanna get the right order.
Yeah.
And so it gives us an opportunity, right, beyond the team grid, so to speak, of getting these things
Yes.
out in front. I saw one of our tech teams one time did a retreat for the teams all day
Hmm.
long, and they bought T-shirts from them that had their number one theme on the T-shirt. So they
Oh, how neat is that?
through the day, right? Their theme, and then all these exercises was kind of built around
Oh,
really
I love
maximize.
that.
Are we maximizing everybody's number one theme? And it was super
Yes.
easy then to see. We do placards, but those are sometimes hard to see when it's just
Yeah,
when it's just on the shirt. What else have you
it's
seen? Have
there.
you seen any other, when we think about activities and we think about making this real every day? What other
Mhm.
activities have you seen that have worked?
One is just to have each individual on the team, if you've got that large Post-it note paper that you can put on the wall, each individual writes down the one theme they feel contributes the most to the team. And then you've got people that go and take pictures of it, because now that's embedded in their phone. So if they're on the road or they work remote, or maybe they're not in the office at the same time, they've got that picture favorited, and they can go and see who they can talk to that has high communication, or who they can talk to with high woo. Another one that I love, and it's so creative, is coming up with your own strengths slogan. So
Mm.
choosing, it could be your number one theme, or it could be any of your themes in your top 5. But what would your strength slogan be? And then posting that on your desk or in the break room where everyone has their strength slogan. So what's my theme, and what's my slogan? So for maximizer, it might be about, I want to focus on excellence, or I'm here for the excellent work, or give me your excellent projects. So it's just whatever you want to do that's most creative, that resonates with you, but the team can start to identify that value as well.
We During last season, I discovered my maximizer a theme. When you talk about having a slogan, my
Hmm.
slogan became anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And
Oh, I
and
like that.
having that, knowing that in my own mind, and I have repeated
Yes.
that dozens, maybe hundreds of times to my coworkers
Hmm.
around me. So we'll be in the midst of doing something and I'll be like, look, me, whatever's worth doing is worth overdoing. And it's funny that connection that starts then,
Yes.
right? At that level. That that'd be interesting to think about. How could I do that for each of my top 5 and think of
Yes.
having those little statements. If you were going to lead an exercise, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. So we'll see
Hmm.
how good you are at this. So if we were going to do a little exercise where we encouraged people to come up with those slogans, maybe one or two, how
Yeah.
would you encourage a manager or a coach to kind of approach that conversation with people? And what kind of resources might you bring in to help with some kind of
Yeah.
activity like that?
Off the bat, the theme insight cards. The theme insight cards, because they have the words and phrases that's going to help everyone start to identify the subtle nuances about their themes. So I bring, dislike. This is a metaphor that describes me, and I think that helps trigger people to go, oh, that's what this theme is about. And then sometimes I'll even ask them, once they've looked over the theme insight cards, think about songs or quotes, um, or poetry that you've got around you. How do you see your theme tied into that? Because oftentimes you just offered up a perfect example with Maximizer. It's a slogan, but it's got that catchy quote to it. For Maximizer, for me, I always think of Jim. They say it comes from Jim Rohn. I'm not sure, but good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. I say it all the time. And then for me, it connected. Oh my gosh, that's coming from my Maximizer theme. So I think if you're using theme insight cards and they can look at words and phrases that resonate with them, or they start to think about their favorite quotes or stories or poetry or movies, and how do you see your themes incorporated, it can help them start to come up with that strength slogan for themselves.
Behind me on the wall here, let's see, on this side, right there, is actually my family's top 5. And so a little art that was made for me. My wife put that together when we moved into the old studio.
Yeah.
And but even a team, and this is a Wordle, which is kind of an old concept, right? We've been through Wordles, we've done those. But I think getting some team frequencies outside of the grid a little bit, and getting them kind of brought together, and maybe the team puts together some slogans. Like,
yes,
what does it mean?
that's
we have, in the 9 of us and in my family, we have adaptability super high. So we can, go anywhere, do anything, anytime, all the time, right? I mean, that could become a slogan for the family. And that we have this kind of family mantra. I'd kind of love to see teams have their own slogan, right? Have you ever seen anybody with team slogans together or something like that, where because as teams work with teams, they have that same experience, right? Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I'm stealing it. Okay. I haven't had a team do that yet. Yeah. So I'm stealing it as a best practice. Well, and I love the idea that you tied that in also to your personal life. Because if we think about our personal professional well-being, our family life, they're a team. Or if we're students, those around us are a team, or they might be in a fraternity or sorority. So again, thinking about all those close connections that impact you outside of work, that can enhance your well-being so that you feel even better within the workplace, or vice versa.
Some dynamite activities we've talked about. Yeah. Jacqueline, what else would you add? What else would you add to this conversation as we're thinking about things that teams can do to build better strengths and stronger strengths?
One I like is, if you were a superhero, who would you be? I think that's a good one. And why? Because you start to hear the talent themes come out. And I think that's even more powerful if they've got their top 5 in front of them, because now the team can start to see, oh, I see where that's coming from. So case in point, I love Achiever's my number 1. Wonder Woman is my favorite of all time. So for me, I feel like Wonder Woman.
Listen, there's nobody
she powers through. Right, she's so cool. Yeah, she's so cool. Yeah. And maximize her positivity. She's focused on the good of humans and wanting to fight for humans and make the world a better place. So she would be my favorite. But I think that's a creative and fun way where it doesn't feel like a more formalized activity, and it breaks the ice and gets people talking, especially if you are starting to create some team activities and you want people to loosen up and they're not going, what's going on here? I've also seen some people round robin and they say, what are you grateful for today? And that opens up a world of understanding as you learn about gratitude and what, again, kind of what motivates people, but what that value might be, or what sparks them in terms of what they're grateful for. If you were a movie, what would you be? One that Jackie Merritt likes to use, if you all know her, is, if you were in a bookstore, what section would you be in? Self-help, psychology, action. And again, why? And so creative ways, once more, to start looping in your themes and having other people see a more personal and creative side of you, but also how your themes influence who you are and the personality that you bring to the table.
One of the effective ones I've seen, and we've talked about these before, but is this deck of pictures. Listen, there's no magic in the pictures. This has maybe been one of the most misunderstood. A lot of folks are like, these, especially overseas, like
Yeah.
these are tough to ship. They're on paper, right? But really, they're just pictures. You could create your own set, your own
Mm-hmm.
deck of cards that are just pictures that you do. One of the things I want to challenge folks is, especially as we've had Adam Hickman on here a bunch talking about remote teams.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do these things remotely? Well, this exercise fits in nicely remote because you can
It
go
does.
get a bunch of pictures, make them digital, and then share those across whatever
Yes.
medium you're using, right? In a virtual sense, and share them that way. Like, go here and see this deck. I put this Pinterest deck together.
Mm-hmm.
Pinterest would be great for this, by the way. Let's go and look at these, and then let's have some discussions, and we can talk about them all in real time in the same
Mm-hmm.
way. The cards we do in training are blank on the back. The ones we sell actually have some questions that you can ask the teams, or ask the individuals. But
Mm-hmm.
these roll up nicely to a team, right?
They
When
do.
thinking about that, yeah.
Yes, and that really is effective with those that work remotely and want to feel like they're tapped in and tuned in to the team that might be on site. And yeah, people will put that in a zip file. They'll send it over. So I think that's a fantastic activity. It reminds me of the powerful partnerships, the large poster we have that we offer. It comes in a packet, but it's the poster. It's got powerful partnership cards, and then it's a group activity. So you've got all the team together. You partner individuals off. It's got their name. It's got their top 5. And then on the back, the person writes the value that you bring to the team is, and they fill that out. And then this is how we can support you. And then that's read off in front of the room. So it's almost like a partnership ceremony, but everyone can hear that person's name, their top 5, the value they're bringing, how they can support that person. And then there's stickers, and they look just like those picture cards that you just showed, Jim. And it's the partner that chooses a sticker that best represents that individual on the team. So I think that's so unique, because then you get the perception of what others think about you. And the value is that sticker with the person's name and top 5 is going on the poster. And now you've got basically this pictograph of every person on the team. And when you put that in a break room, it just creates a lot of energy and enthusiasm, because you've got a visual of the person for one, and you also see that every person on the team's top 5.
I have a Marine son who's stationed overseas right now, and for Christmas we did the 12 days of Christmas, and we created 12 cards for him to open. And we started the exercise with a pilot. When you said stickers, this kind of just
Yes.
we started with just a pile of stickers and some blank cards, and everyone created those cards with the stickers and whatever else they wanted to do. And that could be another exercise where
Mm-hmm.
you get, instead of starting with a picture, you start with a blank card and a whole bunch of stickers. Now, stickers are cheap, right? And you
Yeah.
can find them everywhere. And allow people to tell their story through the stickers they find,
Mm-hmm.
and they stick on these cards. And then it's both a representation of whatever you want it to be,
Oh, I
right?
love
However
that.
you want to do that, right?
Yes.
And it gets some artistic, they get to have the input in it, right? At that point, they
Mm-hmm.
get to kind of dictate what it says. They're not being put in a box, but it gives them an opportunity to kind of work that thing out. So I've never seen that done, but I think that could be kind
I
of, you
like it.
guys can have that for free, by the way. Just take that.
No charge.
Yeah, no, it'd be
Uh,
kind of, Jacqueline, we have maybe one more minute left. Anything else you'd throw in here as we think about
yes.
activities?
Yes. If you're doing a lot of activities, or you just want a book to help you, we did just come out with one last year, I believe, and it's a strengths-based team building activities guide. So we give you 100 activities that you can do. I believe it's 100 activities that you can do. It's a book full, and it's based on are you trying to strengths build? Are you just trying to get your team to understand one another? Are you taking it to the next level with the team grid? So there's a number of different activities that you can just pull from based on what you're looking for in that particular situation, or that point in time. But
Uh,
wonderful guide. And at Gallup, we still refer to that oftentimes when we want to shake it up and do something a little bit more creative in
mhm.
workspaces.
Yeah, no, right on. I think it's a great opportunity to get some ideas.
Hmm.
I honestly, I'm a huge fan of, I kind of take ideas from things I found and I make them my
Yeah.
own. And then, just like the sticker idea, it's kind of one of those things you're like, I'm not good at following rules. Maybe that's it. And I want to kind of break
Is
the
that
rules
your
and do it on my own.
adaptability?
So it is. Yeah, it is indeed. and a little bit of woo, like I want to influence. And
Yes.
then, there's all those themes in there that want to, I never do the same thing twice, although I have
Mhm.
created about 800 of these things. So apparently there's something in there that works that way, but they're all different, right? And so for me, I like it to be a different experience each time. I like to
Mhm.
kind of custom build those. There are others who like to buy it and follow it by the rules and do it by the book, and that's great too, right? That kind
Mhm.
of works as well. So, Jacqueline, thanks for taking the time today to
Yeah,
sit
thank
down and
you.
record 3 and 4 for us. We now have a complete package of for teams and managers, 4-part series, about an hour worth of material. If you just caught 4, we have 1, 2, and 3 that's available for you as well, either on YouTube. You can download it through the Call the Coach webcast, but we'd love to have you do that as well. Jacqueline, thanks for taking the time to do this with us
Thank
today as well.
you.
You
Thank
bet.
everyone for listening in.
It was fun. You hang tight for me 1 second, and we'll answer a few questions in the post show.
You've
With
got
that,
it.
we will remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at now our new Gallup Access. It's easiest for strengths folks. It's easiest to access that through Gallup.com/CliftonStrengths. And we have tons of resources for you,
Mhm.
not just your top 5, but there's a bunch on the tool. And then on the /CliftonStrengths page, there is a ton, enormous amount. I can't even cover it here, of resources that are
Yes.
available for you. So head out there, explore it. There's an About tab up there. If you click on that, there's 5 sections that you should spend an afternoon on just by yourself, making sure you know what's in those sections. So a lot of resources for you. As well as I mentioned, YouTube, you can find us on YouTube. Just search Clifton Strengths. If you go to any podcast app, you can find us by searching Gallup Webcasts. Love to have you go ahead and subscribe while you're out there, so you make sure every time we post something new, you get it automatically. If For every program we do, including this one, we do a post on Gallup.com, and it has the complete transcripts. Some of you have asked for those, so you can search for anytime Jacqueline said teams. You could find that in there if you wanted to. At the very bottom of that, you can sign up for our new Clifton Strengths newsletter, available for you for free every month. We'll just send you reminders of some of these great tips as well. So get signed up for that as well. If your organization is struggling to implement any of these things, or you just have some questions for us, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. You can also see a complete list of our courses that are available. We do offer those on site and some virtual. They're available on our courses page, courses.gallup.com. We'd love to have you come out for the summer and join us June 3rd. No,
Yes.
1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Listen, Omaha
Join
in
us.
June, it's no LA. It's better than LA. I'm just going to say that. June, okay, maybe not, but
Yes.
it's pretty close.
You've got a great downtown space.
It is
Come join
pretty.
us at the summit.
We'd love to have you. Gallupatwork.com. That is the way to get there and get signed up and just join us. Join us on our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/called to coach, all one word. On LinkedIn, search for Clifton Strengths Trained Coaches, and I'll let you in. You don't have to be a coach to be there. You don't even need to be a trained coach. That's our public space on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you join us as well. Thanks for joining us. If you found this useful, we'd ask that you'd share it. Join us for another Call to Coach. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Mhm.